Hello. Wanted to pop on and make a video because I mentioned going live earlier today, but I thought making a video maybe would make it more structured. Wanted to give more of a in-depth reaction to the Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones situation. I think first, most importantly, this does not make me hate Daniel Jones, the guy. I actually really like him as a person, and of course I'm rooting him on, but just from the most logical standpoint you could have, being a Colts fan, Shane Steichen's remarks about it being a year-to-year league, and even mixing that with our assistant general manager and Chris Ballard's remarks about this isn't them giving up on Anthony. I think it is so unclear what their futures look like, which makes it even more idiotic to me that they wouldn't go with the person that is most certainly more capable of making big play after big play. And even in the preseason, I feel Anthony did prove that he showed some tremendous growth in some areas that he definitely needed to work on. But with Jones's record of 24, 44, and 1, that isn't inspiring at all. His turnover ratio over 70 games is 85, which is just insane. But I've been saying this quite a bit to people that I've talked to, but I think this is more than anything a selfish move on behalf of Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard. I think they want to extend their tenures in Indy more than anything. I don't know how Daniel Jones offers you a greater chance to extend your time in this organization than Anthony, but that most certainly seems to be the driving point. And from how many times it seemed like Shane Steichen got almost kind of like tripped up in the presser today, I don't think he has a good enough reason for all of this. But if it really does come down to that Daniel Jones just simply won the battle, then there you go. You've got your answer. It's a full-on competition. So it's as advertised. But I've seen some people say that it almost seems like he and maybe Chris Ballard also were maybe set on starting someone over Anthony, and to me, they maybe got so caught up in their regret for not sitting Anthony his rookie year that that then informed this decision, which is also very much stupid to me, just to put it simply. And if that is the case, of having this kind of preconceived idea of what they wanted to do and that they wanted to sit Anthony, then it makes it insane to think of why wouldn't they target Justin Fields or Sam Darnold instead if you're really seeking that out, not Daniel Jones, someone who we know who he is as a quarterback. And I think with success stories, you can cherry pick stats all you want, but I think for 2022 to be this like outlier for what Daniel Jones can be with us is also insane. 3 years ago that happened, and even then his stats were not all that impressive. And I saw someone note, forgot who it was, that they had Barkley still, and it seemed to be totally structured around taking the ball out of Daniel Jones's hands and just giving it to Barkley over and over and over again. it almost reminds me of what we did toward the end of the year, or maybe that more so middle period with Carson Wentz, of just hammering it with Jonathan Taylor. But I think for Daniel Jones and quarterbacks that like him, for Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield to kind of be the success stories of that kind of story of a QB who has a rough start to their career but then goes on to find success with their other teams, you have to note that Sam Darnold had a year with Kyle Shanahan as his coach, even though he was in a backup role, which I feel totally gave him more knowledge of how to play the position better than he did in New York, and all of that. And he worked under Kevin O'Connell, who's just, I think, probably like my favorite coach in the league at the moment, just with his interaction with Anthony and all of that. Daniel Jones did not spend a year with a quarterback guru at all. He went from the New York Giants to the Indianapolis Colts. And I think with the tenure that he had in New York, or he did spend that a little time in Minnesota, so maybe Kevin O'Connell had a good impact on him, but we don't know, because he still had some struggles during training camp and even preseason. But I think coming off the back of those two things, he most certainly should have a backup role. But this truly is just mind-boggling to me. But once again, I will say, I will still root for Daniel. I want us to win more than anything. I want to go to the playoffs. And so I'm not going to cling on to an Arch Manning dream or anything other than that before the season's already started. That's just not me. And I think all of you should know that by now. But and now we're also at the point where you saw Anthony Richardson's agent's comments that came out relatively recently, and who's to say we don't trade him? I think Ballard will be so stubborn with this vision that he has that he won't. But I most certainly think it's a possibility now, because now, even with the idea that maybe down the line, if Daniel Jones struggles, we do start Anthony again, it makes them look like complete idiots. And it pains me to think of this scenario where, because they would then start Anthony midway through the season when we're struggling, and say we find success after that and we make a playoff push or something like that, that they would then be rewarded for that. But I feel good about Irsay's daughters taking over, and that I feel they'll make the right decisions and be more, have a little bit more guts, because we've heard all the great stories about Jim and how much he cares for his staff as people. And with the way the league is evolving, I'm not saying you shouldn't have that. Obviously, you should have that. The kind of owner to coach to GM to player relationship is so vital to a good just organization and whole. But I think Chris Ballard is great at sweet talking his way out of things, and it's time that catches up with him. But still trying to stay optimistic. I still think we have a good team around us, and I'm very curious to see what happens, but it's obviously just disappointing today. But yeah, wanted to come on and just kind of yap a bit. So yeah, thank you.